Mel, what can you tell us about your project, Passion of the Christ Resurrection?
Yes.
It's rumored it will be released in 2024.
Correct.
Anything you can say about that?
And that it will be the biggest film in the history of the world. And I think it might be 2 movies. I don't think it's going to be 3, but it could be. But it could be 1. So depends how he wants to do it. He took me through a lot of the scenes.
Have you ever heard of films that go beyond the screen and touch the soul? Because what happened during the recording of The Passion of the Christ made us know that it was more than a movie. Strange things happened on set. The actor who played Jesus came dangerously close to death. Cast and crew spoke of life-changing moments, with some even saying it felt like the Bible itself came to life before their eyes. What really happened during those months? Join us as we reveal what really happened during the filming of Passion of the Christ, the Passion of the Christ movie.
Everyone's excited. They want to know. Passion of the Christ 2. Is it happening?
That's an industrial secret. The walls are...
Caviezel says it's happening, though. He says it's going to be the biggest movie ever. Is that true?
The making of the Passion of the Christ was far more than just another film production. It felt like stepping into a different realm, where every day brought challenges that tested not just the body, but the spirit. The cast and crew weren't just filming a story, they were living through something much bigger. The production faced extreme conditions from the start. They filmed in locations where the weather was harsh and unpredictable. Scorching heat one day, freezing winds the next. The team had to find creative ways to protect themselves. They used makeshift scarves, borrowed clothes, and anything that could shield them from the elements. The heat was relentless, especially for actors like Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus. Imagine carrying a heavy wooden cross under the blazing sun, hour after hour. That was his reality, but what else would happen on the set of The Passion of the Christ? Keep watching, because the most shocking part of the video is nearer than you think. On set of The Passion of the Christ, the physical toll of playing the character Jesus was immense for Jim Caviezel. Even the makeup became a problem. It melted in the heat, or washed away when sudden rainstorms appeared out of nowhere. Even the erratic weather wasn't the only challenge. The terrain was rough, making it difficult to move heavy equipment and organize scenes. Some days it felt impossible to get things done. Storms would roll in, forcing them to reshoot crucial scenes multiple times. The schedule was chaotic, and patience wore thin. Yet, through it all, there was a sense of purpose. Everyone on set believed they were part of something special, something bigger than themselves. The difficulties became a shared experience that brought the team closer. They leaned on each other, finding strength in their collective mission. For many, the hardships felt like a test of faith.
It's a great story. I think every Christian and non-Christian should see this movie.
They weren't just recreating a story, they were embodying it. And then, the truly unexplainable began to happen. While the cameras captured powerful scenes, the crew started noticing strange things on set. One of the most talked about events was the appearance of a mysterious light. It wasn't part of the production setup. This light seemed to illuminate specific moments during nighttime filming, almost as if it had a mind of its own. Some believed it was a divine sign. Others stayed quiet, afraid to sound superstitious. There was also the story of an actor who felt a presence while filming a crucial scene. He was completely alone, but he described feeling someone standing beside him. The presence, he said, wasn't frightening, it was comforting. It gave him the strength to keep going. The experience was so striking that the director stopped filming to investigate, but nothing was found. These moments weren't isolated. Reports of unusual happenings became more frequent as the production went on. Even skeptics couldn't deny that something felt different about this project. What was it that made this film feel so otherworldly? Was it the story they were telling? Or was there truly a force beyond their understanding at work? There was also the issue of the unusual weather on set of The Passion of the Christ. During a tense scene, dark clouds suddenly gathered over the set, reflecting the drama unfolding in the story. Just as suddenly, the clouds disappeared, leaving everyone stunned. Some called it a coincidence, while others saw it as a sign of something deeper. Even the extras began to share remarkable stories. Pilot's wife, played by Claudia Gini, described dreaming about a scene in vivid detail before it was filmed, despite not knowing anything about the script. Reports like this were common. Many on set felt as though they were being guided by a higher power. "It was as if we were being led to something far beyond us," said a member of the production team. She later opened up that while working on the movie, it significantly changed her outlook on spirituality. For Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus, the role blurred the line between acting and reality. He faced physical and emotional tests that were overwhelming. During the scene where Caviezel was supposed to be flogged, he was mistakenly hit with so much intensity that it made him cry out in pure, unfiltered agony. The blows left deep bruises that took days to heal. In another scene, where he carried a heavy wooden cross, he dislocated his shoulder. The pain was so real that his cries during filming were not acting, they were genuine.
They would take me down, and every time my shoulder was locked in, there was a 1,000-foot cliff, and it would hit the cross and would snap my shoulder out of joint. And I was just beyond. And at that point, I was so sick that it would be...
Still, Caviezel refused to stop, saying he wanted to stay true to the story and the suffering it depicted. The weather also added to the struggle. Many of the outdoor scenes were filmed in freezing conditions. Crew members suffered from hypothermia, and Caviezel himself was struck by lightning while portraying Jesus on the cross. Though shaken, he chose to continue, inspiring the entire team with his dedication. One crew member said, "If he doesn't quit, we can't either." But why was all these things happening on set? We may never know, but one thing is for sure, Mel Gibson went all out on the making of this movie. Keep watching to find out how. Mel Gibson going all out for the Passion of the Christ movie. The Passion of the Christ was more than just a movie. It was a bold, artistic, and spiritual statement. Mel Gibson personally funded the $30 million production, a gamble that paid off beyond anyone's imagination. The film broke numerous records for religious-themed movies, earning over $600 million globally. This financial triumph allowed Gibson and his team to support faith-based philanthropic efforts, but the movie's success was just the beginning of its cultural and cinematic impact. Gibson's vision for the film was rooted in historical and cultural authenticity. From the very start, he was determined to make the story as real and accurate as possible. To achieve this, the production team consulted with historical and religious experts who delved into ancient manuscripts, mosaics, and texts. Every element was crafted to reflect life in the 1st century. One of the film's most striking features was its use of ancient languages, Hebrew, Latin, and Aramaic. This decision, though impressive, was no easy feat. Actors worked closely with linguistic tutors to perfect their pronunciation and intonation. It took weeks of practice to master the dialogue, but Gibson believed the effort was worth it. He was convinced that using the original languages created a deeper connection to the events being portrayed. The sets were just as ambitious as the language. Ancient Jerusalem was recreated on the cobblestone streets of Matera, Italy. Local artisans and carpenters worked tirelessly for months, constructing buildings and structures that looked centuries old. Costume designers also paid painstaking attention to detail, basing their work on archaeological images. The result was an immersive world where the cast and crew felt as though they had stepped back in time. The script underwent significant changes throughout production. Gibson initially wanted to include some apocryphal elements, but religious advisors urged him to stick to the canonical texts. This led to debates among the team as they worked to balance biblical authenticity with cinematic storytelling. Some artistic choices also pushed the boundaries of traditional religious films. One of the most striking examples was the portrayal of Satan as a transgender figure. This was meant to convey both mystery and deception. Rosalinda Celentano, the actress who played Satan, described her preparation for the role as a deep psychological challenge.
Behind the camera and just watching her face, she could bring you to tears just by her, her emotional expression in her face. She's really quite remarkable.
Her goal was to embody a paradox, an alluring yet unsettling presence. Every detail, from the performances to the production design, was a reflection of Gibson's unique vision. The cast and crew later described their work on the film as a transformative experience, both artistically and spiritually. But what was the reaction of the church when this move finally hit the theaters? Let's find out. Reactions to the Passion of the Christ movie. When the Passion of the Christ finally hit theaters, it became something that no one could ignore. On one hand, it moved audiences deeply, while on the other, it caused debates that crossed religious and secular boundaries. The film's vivid and unflinching portrayal of Jesus' suffering divided opinions. Within church communities, there were heated discussions. Some religious leaders admired the raw depiction of Jesus' sacrifice, believing it captured the essence of the gospel's message. Others were more cautious, worried that certain biblical passages could be misunderstood. Even inside the Vatican, opinions were divided. More conservative Christian groups expressed concern about the film's interpretation, but many viewers felt it portrayed the story with an unfiltered sincerity that brought the sacrifice to life. The film didn't just open conversations, it challenged them. It shifted how people talked about faith, film, and representation. Audiences who had never thought deeply about these topics were suddenly asking big questions. What did faith mean to them? What did sacrifice look like? Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus, felt the weight of these reactions. His performance was widely praised for its intensity and dedication, yet Caviezel took it all in stride. In interviews, he often reflected on his role with humility. He wasn't chasing awards or fame. For him, playing Jesus was more about the message than any recognition he could receive. Internationally, the film faced hurdles. In some countries, it was censored because of its graphic imagery. Authorities in these regions felt the scenes of suffering were too intense for audiences, but censorship didn't stop the film's reach. In places like the Middle East and Asia, people found ways to access the movie unofficially. It became a topic of conversation in areas where discussions about religion and spirituality were often avoided. The film opened doors to dialogue in unexpected places. Meanwhile, Mel Gibson remained steadfast in defending his vision. Criticism didn't faze him. At a press conference in Rome, he explained his intention behind the movie. He wanted to tell Jesus' story in a raw, powerful way that could help viewers truly feel the weight of his sacrifice. For Gibson, the goal was not to soften the story, but to present it as authentically as possible. The response to the Passion of the Christ was as diverse as its audience. It drew in people who wouldn't normally watch religious films. Gibson's bold approach, while polarizing, attracted widespread attention. Even people unfamiliar with the Bible found themselves captivated by the film's emotional depth and visual power. Beyond its cultural impact, the film also made waves economically. It grossed a total of $612.1 million worldwide and became the fourth highest-grossing movie of 2004 internationally, and also the highest-grossing independent film of all time at the time it was released.
Boy, you've got that right, Charlie. The faithful are flocking to this theater this morning. The Passion is playing on all 20 screens. Now, this Metroplex has the feel and look of a crowded theater on a Saturday evening.
The film's legacy did not end with its release. Only a year later, in 2005, plans emerged to restore and re-release The Passion of the Christ. The new version was to include interviews with the cast about their life-changing experiences and moments that didn't make the final cut. The movie also had a ripple effect on religious filmmaking. It inspired a revival of biblical and spiritual storytelling, with filmmakers around the world taking a more serious and emotional approach to these tales. Religious groups began using movies like The Passion of the Christ as teaching tools. They screened them at gatherings and seminars to encourage reflection and discussion. Meanwhile, the philanthropic impact of the film began to take shape. Gibson and others involved in the production used part of the movie's earnings to fund humanitarian projects. They built schools and hospitals in underprivileged areas, focusing on countries where poverty was a critical issue. These efforts became a real-life extension of the film's themes of sacrifice and compassion, ensuring its message lived on in both hearts and actions. Johnny Depp's life has been full of highs and lows, but nothing could prepare the world for what happened when he met Pope Francis. This unexpected encounter took place while Depp was going through one of his toughest battles, a long and public divorce that deeply affected him.
He can confirm Amber Heard filed for divorce from Johnny Depp on Monday.
What happened during this meeting that shocked religious communities? How did it change Depp's faith forever? In this video, we will look at what Pope Francis did with Johnny Depp that shocked all religious people. Johnny Depp encounter with Pope Francis. Feeling broken and lost, needing a hand for guidance and a kind heart for love, waking up every day with a wish to disappear. These were the emotions Johnny Depp once shared. Born in Kentucky and raised without a father, he described his mother as the meanest person he has ever known. During an interview with Larry King, Depp spoke about faith, explaining that while he believed in his children and the idea of moving forward to make things better, religion was not something he felt connected to. These were his words when life's challenges hit hard.
I didn't feel it necessarily we all feel it necessary to recognize the feedback.
Until a life-changing trip to Rome brought an encounter with the Pope. What led him to Rome? How did he meet the Pope? Brace yourself for this shocking story. It all started when the American actor made a stunning return to the red carpet at the Rome Film Festival on October 26th. He was there to present his second film as a director, a project dedicated to the life of painter Amedeo Modigliani. At the festival, Johnny Depp was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award for his contributions to cinema, marking a career that has seen him portray iconic characters such as Captain Jack Sparrow, Willy Wonka, and the Mad Hatter. A prominent figure in the film industry since the 1990s, his movies have grossed over $8 billion at the box office. Recently, he shifted focus to directing, showcasing his skills at the event in Italy with the debut of Modi, 3 Days on the Wing of Madness. Despite the controversies surrounding his high-profile relationship and legal battle with Amber Heard, Depp's achievements were celebrated, cementing his legacy in the world of cinema. The event was attended by big names like Viggo Mortensen and Francis Ford Coppola, who both debuted new films. Coppola even worked with Adam Driver, famous for playing Kylo Ren in Star Wars. Johnny Depp's marriage to Amber Heard from 2015 to 2017 was full of maltreatments and serious accusations on both sides, leading to him losing roles in big franchises like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, part of the Harry Potter universe. Despite the setbacks, Depp managed to keep his career alive in Europe, appearing at festivals like Cannes, where he presented Jean de Barry with a French filmmaker. While in Rome, after accepting his award, Depp had a rare and private meeting with Pope Francis, where they reportedly discussed art and its role in building cultural connections. Modi, 3 Days on the Wing of Madness, is a biographical drama about Amedeo Modigliani, an artist living in Paris during the First World War in 1916. The film stars Riccardo Scamarcio, Al Pacino, and Antonia Desplat. It premiered at the San Sebastian Film Festival in Spain before being shown in Rome. A previous film about Modigliani was released in 2004. This marks Depp's first attempt at directing since 1997 with The Brave, which received poor reviews.
His personal life has hit a very rough patch, but is Johnny Depp's movie career in trouble too? Well, maybe not catastrophically.
But before this meeting, how was he raised, especially when it comes to religion? Depp was born John Christopher Depp, II, on June 9, 1963, in Owensboro, Kentucky. His mother, Betty Sue Palmer, worked as a waitress, and his father, John Christopher Depp, was a civil engineer. Depp's parents divorced when he was a teenager, and he moved to Florida with his mother, where he went to high school. Despite his background, Johnny Depp has kept his religious beliefs private. He hasn't discussed his faith openly in interviews, leaving fans and the media to speculate. Some sources claim he was raised in a Christian household, possibly as a Baptist, due to his Southern upbringing, but Depp's views on religion have changed over time, and he's known for being open-minded and spiritually curious. The evolution of Depp's religious views. Johnny Depp has often shared his interest in Native American spirituality and shamanism, which shows a strong connection to nature and a deep respect for the earth. He has also spoken about his admiration for the teachings of Carlos Castaneda, a late author and spiritual guide who explored shamanism and altered states of consciousness. Throughout his career, Depp has surrounded himself with a diverse range of friends and collaborators, including actors, musicians, and artists with different religious beliefs. His former partner, Vanessa Paradis, a French actress and singer, is said to have her own spiritual inclinations, while Depp's close friend, Marilyn Manson, is known for his fascination with the occult and satanic imagery. This group of people may have had an impact on Depp's own spiritual journey and beliefs. Given Depp's preference for privacy and his hesitancy to talk about his personal life publicly, there's been a lot of speculation about his religious views. Some tabloids have claimed that Depp practices Buddhism, pointing to his interest in meditation and mindfulness. Others have suggested he's agnostic or even atheist, based on his unconventional lifestyle and non-traditional views. But since Depp has never confirmed any of these claims, these rumors remain just that, unverified. Recently, Johnny Depp became more vocal about skepticism toward organized religion and expressed a preference for questioning traditional beliefs. He often mentioned a desire to explore various philosophies and spiritual practices, seeking meaning and enlightenment in a unique way. Depp's agnostic beliefs reflect a curious and introspective nature, adding layers of complexity that make him an intriguing figure in the celebrity world. Although his views may not align with traditional norms, they showcase an open-mindedness and a willingness to challenge the status quo. Depp also opened up about his complex relationship with Christianity. Raised in a non-religious household, though technically Catholic, many speculated that Depp might be an atheist. While that might be partially true, this is not the way Depp defines his faith. In an interview, Depp expressed that belief lies in the present moment and the reality of existence. He acknowledged the many perspectives on the question of God, stating that the answer is unknown, especially given the lack of direct evidence. Depp further explained that he doesn't hold negative views toward organized religion and believes that everyone is free to follow their own beliefs, which he finds admirable. He even humorously remarked that being pleasantly surprised by an afterlife with loud music would be more desirable than the idea of resting in peace. Despite these uncertainties, Depp shared a spiritual perspective with his children.
Let's get down to brass tacks.
Johnny Depp is the nicest pirate we know,
encouraging them to appreciate the world around them. He advised them to view nature and their own reflections as a representation of the divine, a view he felt was close to the truth. Johnny Depp's struggles and unbelief. Johnny Depp has faced numerous struggles in his personal life, from being raised Catholic to battling drugs and enduring an abusive marriage. In a way, meeting Pope Francis brought a sense of clarity into his life. But before that, 3 people close to Depp appeared in court on Thursday, detailing his journey from being considered the biggest movie star in the world to someone battling issues with drugs, money, and his inability to arrive on time for movie sets. These testimonies were presented at the request of Amber Heard's legal team, with Depp's longtime agent, business manager, and a close friend sharing their perspectives. Tracy Jacobs, who worked as Depp's agent for almost 3 decades, revealed that in the later years of their partnership, Depp consistently showed up late for nearly every film set. Does this relate to his faith? Was it his marriage affecting him? The answer will leave you speechless. Jacobs explained that she was direct with Depp, telling him that his behavior was damaging and needed to stop. According to her, this advice made a difference. This testimony is part of Depp's libel lawsuit against Heard, where he claims that an op-ed she wrote in the Washington Post wrongly labeled him someone who inflicted physical pain on her, and this image harmed his career, especially with franchises like Pirates of the Caribbean. Heard's team argues that Depp's career downfall was the result of his own actions and bad behavior. Depp maintains that he never physically harmed Heard and was instead the victim of her maltreatment.
Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial after days of testimony from Amber Heard.
But Heard's lawyers assert that Depp assaulted her, citing his alcohol and drug use as evidence of his lack of credibility. Jacobs described Depp as an extraordinary talent who became the biggest movie star in the world, but his behavior took a sharp decline in the years leading up to his firing in 2016. Jacobs pointed out that his drug and alcohol use grew more intense, and word of his unprofessionalism spread. In a small industry like Hollywood, people talk, and this made it harder for Depp to land roles. Joel Mandel, Depp's former business manager, explained how Pirates of the Caribbean shot Depp to fame, taking him to a whole new level of success. This new fame meant more employees and more expensive lifestyles, including buying additional properties. But around 2010, things began to change. Mandel observed a growing problem with alcohol and drugs, which led to erratic behavior and stress. These issues also made it difficult to have the necessary conversations to manage his finances. At one point, Depp was spending $100,000 a month just on a doctor and staff to help him get sober. Later, his spending rose to $300,000 a month for full-time staff. On top of that, there were times when Depp spent thousands each month on prescription drugs. Mandel noted that as the spending increased, it required a level of income that was unsustainable. When the money dried up, the situation became impossible to manage. Mandel grew increasingly concerned about Depp's finances in 2015, but Depp reacted with anger to those concerns. In 2016, Depp fired him. Bruce Witkin, a musician who had been friends with Depp for almost 40 years, shared that Depp's jealousy in romantic relationships was evident. This jealousy was particularly clear with Heard when she would be away filming a movie or doing something that Depp couldn't monitor. Witkin mentioned that Depp would often get worked up over these situations. He also recalled seeing bruises on Heard's arm while working on a documentary with Depp, and noticing Depp had a fat lip on another occasion. But Witkin clarified that he never witnessed physical maltreatment between Depp and Heard. Witkin also tried to help Depp with his substance misuse, even arranging for him to see a therapist. Depp often reassured him, saying that everything would be fine, but it was clear that it wasn't.
Johnny Depp sued his ex-wife Amber Heard for defamation, Depp claiming Heard made up allegations that he abused her.
Depp's sister, Christy Dembrowski, had always been concerned about his health and well-being, particularly regarding his substance use. Witkin observed that many people close to Depp, though concerned, often stayed silent because they feared losing their jobs. While not everyone fell into this category, it was clear that in the world Depp inhabited, everyone seemed to want something. As time passed, Witkin's friendship with Depp began to fade, especially toward the end of 2017 when Depp started distancing himself. Witkin received a strange text from Depp, accusing him of betraying him, but Depp refused to explain what he meant. After that, Witkin had not seen Depp since 2018.